It's week 37 in the Premier League season, and this match was on Friday. I'd overlooked a Friday night match. Everton at Goodison Park, home to Burnley. The corresponding fixture on Boxing Day, Everton won convincingly by 5-1 at Turf Moor, and they got off to a pretty convincing start here. After 17 minutes, Richarlison hit a sweet left foot strike, which got a slight deflection by me, but ended up in the back of the net. And good work by Calvert-Lewin in setting up the chance for the Brazilian. So that was 1-0 Burnley. And only a matter of minutes later, Coleman took advantage of some poor keeping by Heaton, who parried a shot to him and headed in for the second. It's 2-0 at the break, and Barnes did get a goal chalked off for offside. The second half was pretty lacklustre, to be honest. 87th minute though, Lookman's shot was just pushed over. A comfortable win for Silva's team. Dyche's side, relieved to have avoided the drop, really looked like they were on the beach. So final score then, Everton 2, Burnley 0. Saturday's fixtures then, and the big one was at St James's Park. I predicted a 2-1 win for Liverpool here, but it was a fantastic game. Lascelles was back for Newcastle, and Lee back in midfield replacing the out of touch Shelvey. Lovren came in for Matic at the back for the Reds, and Sturridge was in for Firmino, who wasn't even on the bench. I guess he's got an injury. Anyway, into the action, early half chances for Liverpool, and then a corner on 14th minute, and Arnold delivered it right onto Van Dijk's head, who was unmarked in the 6-yard box, and it hit the back of the net. That was 1-0 for the Reds. On 20 minutes, great response from Newcastle, as Atsu was quick to react to a Rondon effort, and that was the equaliser, 1-1. It did appear that before that Arnold had handled the ball, but anyway, the goal was awarded. Not long after that, the increasingly dangerous Perez managed to hit a post, with Newcastle really up for the challenge. But then 28 minutes, another cross from Alexander-Arnold, and a neat clipped by Salah in the box with his right foot, and it went wide of Dubravka, and that was 2-1 Liverpool. So things were looking good for the Reds, 2-1 at the half-time break. But into the second half, Newcastle really looked well, like a side that really wanted to go for the win. And it was an early chance for Rondon, which was saved by Alisson. And then at the other end, a poor miss by Sturridge, who was in for Firmino, of course. And then on 53 minutes, Atsu easily went past Arnold, and his cross was batted away for a corner. And from the corner, the ball was headed to Rondon, who hit a very sweet left foot volley into the corner, and we were level again at 2 each. After that, there was a rather bad collision between Salah and the Newcastle goalkeeper Dubravka, and Salah was carried off on a stretcher. So Origi came on, and Milner replaced Lovren. And on 86 minutes, Liverpool got a free kick out on the right. Looked like Arnold was going to whip it in, as he usually did, but Van Dijk in the box managed to communicate to Shaqiri to take the in-swinger, and it paid off because Origi managed to jump above everyone, headed the ball. It had a slight deflection, went in the corner, and Liverpool had grabbed all the points, 3-2. So their title chances are still alive. As for Salah, apparently he's in okay, but they'll do some tests, possibly on some concussion. Anyway, St James's Park, great game. Final score: Newcastle 2, Liverpool 3. So to the Cardiff City Stadium, the visitors were Crystal Palace. Cardiff basically must win if they want to continue their fight in the top flight. Benteke was injured for Palace, Batshuayi up front, and Townsend was recalled. Early action then. Murphy for Cardiff had a speculative shot that hit the post of the Palace goal in the early minutes. But on 28 minutes, a piece of class from Wilfried Zaha, he managed to sidestep the defender and create a yard of space, and he hit the ball in the corner of the net, and Palace were 1 up. But amazingly, on 31 minutes, Cardiff on the front foot, a cross from the right. Kelly, the Palace defender, got himself in a right tangle and managed to dispatch the ball into his own net. And so we were level at 1-1. However, Palace looking a class act, I might add. On 39 minutes, Batshuayi may add a neat 1-2 with Ayew in the penalty box, and his shot hit the roof of the net, and Palace were back in front 2-1. Cardiff had a couple of half chances, and also Batshuayi had a chance to get the third, but Etheridge was superb. Into the second half then, and Murphy once again managed to prod an effort just wide from a cross, and Zohore 1-on-1 with Iniesta, the Palace keeper, but the goalie saved the effort. 70 minutes then, and Townsend picked the ball up on the right for Palace, weaving his way across the penalty area, and his left foot shot hit the post and ricocheted into the net, and Palace were 3-1 up. That was basically it. Reed got a last minute consolation for Cardiff, but the final score was 3-2 for Palace, and that confirmed that Cardiff are heading for the Championship. Final score then: Cardiff 2, Crystal Palace 3. So to the Vitality Stadium then. Spurs were the visitors. Spurs, of course, 2 defeats in a row now, desperately needing something from this game, as the thought of not being in that top 4, having been in the top 3 all season, is something they really don't want to dwell on. Anyway, Son was back up front for Spurs, and basically it was a strange sort of game really, but it was decided on 2 moments of madness by Spurs. Both incidents happened the other side of half time. The first one before half time involved Son, who, after a rather strong challenge by Bournemouth defender, lost his head completely and lashed out, and the referee had no choice but to issue a red card. So that meant they were down to 10 as the half-time break was arrived. Just minutes into the second half, Pochettino put Voigt on at right back because both Dyer and Alderweireld were on yellow cards, and amazingly Voigt rushed into a challenge with his studs high and took Bournemouth defender out. It was a dreadful challenge, and really the referee had no choice, and that was the second the second red card. So amazingly, Spurs were down to 9 men. Now, when we consider the action in the first half, Spurs had really had the better of things, and the goalkeeper making his debut, Travers, was inspired, defying Mora and Dele Alli on a couple of occasions, and Son. But once they went down to 9 men, of course, it was basically a case of defend and go for the point. Well, they were really competing tremendously well, and at one stage, even though King and Wilson were always a threat, it looked like they might just clamber to the finish line. However, in added time, a corner from the right, and Ake rose to head home and secure the win for Eddie Howe's team. Pochettino was realistic in defeat, didn't comment much on the referee's decisions, but the result was that Bournemouth had beaten Spurs by a 1-0. To the London Stadium then, last home game of the season for West Ham. They were entertaining Southampton, both teams safe, of course. Snodgrass was suspended, and the Hammers were without Rice and Anderson, both sick. Forster was back in the Southampton goal. He hasn't been seen for more than a year. Strange choice, really. Anyway, early action, and West Ham was certainly on the front foot. And on 16 minutes, Noble delivered a cute pass through to Arnautovic after a dreadful mistake by Valery, and Arnautovic's clinical finish. That was 1-0 the Hammers. Lanzini warmed Forster's palms a little later, and the goalkeeper had to be sharp to keep out Antonio. We got to the break with the Hammers 1-up. Into the second half, Southampton improved a little bit. There was a half chance for Redmond, who came on as a sub, and Fabianski had to be alert to tip over another effort from that player. 69 minutes though, Arnautovic got his second when he reacted quickest to Forster's palm clearance from a cross. And then on 72, Fredericks finished off a good move with an audacious flick, following an audacious flick from the substitute Wiltshire, and the Hammers finished comfortably 3-0 winners. Philip Pellegrini in a buoyant mood and confident that this is a good step forward for West Ham. Final score, West Ham 3, Southampton 0. So the final home game of the season for Wolves, they entertained relegated Fulham. Both these teams came up last year. And Parker, the caretaker manager of Fulham, had won 3 in a row. So they were certainly confident. Wolves fielded an unchanged side, and they were looking for a top half finish. That would be their first in the top flight since 1980. Into the action then, and Jota immediately showed that he meant business, and his effort was tipped just wide by Rico, who had a busy afternoon. Dendoncker hit the bar from a material cross, but Fulham managed to scrape to the interview level. Into the second half, and Jota, again looking dangerous, was guilty of a rather bad miss when he steered an effort wide of the post. A rare effort for Fulham with Mitrovic, but he hit his shot way over the bar. Then Neves' strike forced another good save from Rico, and this quickly followed a Doherty header which was pushed around the post by the Fulham keeper, who was having a great game. But finally on 75 minutes, Dendoncker, a great shot on the volley from across from the right. It hit the back of the net, and Wolves were 1-up. Jota had a late effort which hit the crossbar. Wolves were really far too good for Fulham and should have won by more. But anyway, Wolves took this one by a 1-0. And the manager received a doctorate from the local university at the beginning of the match for his contributions to sport. Well done, Nino. Okay, final score then. Wolves 1, Fulham 0. Okay, first match on Sunday then at the John Smith Stadium. Huddersfield at home to Manchester United. Huddersfield, their last home game before they start playing Championship football again. Man United, slim chances of a top 4 and Champions League still alive. De Gea was very much in the spotlight after his poor performances of late. Sanchez was up front for United. First time we've seen him for a while. McTominay in midfield, and Jones was back in defence. Mata up front with Rashford. 5 minutes. Free kick for United. It was a long way out. Rashford's effort was pretty easy for Losel. And then a couple of minutes later, another attack by United. The ball came across a goal to McTominay, and his left foot shot was too much to handle for Losel, and the ball squirmed under his body and into the corner. To be perfectly frank, the goalkeeping was shocking, but United were ahead, and they certainly dominated the possession from there on, creating a few half chances. Sanchez looked bright and busy. 23 minutes, first shot on goal for the Terriers. Bacuna just wide. But then United, another fine team move. Mata's final curled shot just inches wide. 39 minutes, the same man Bacuna had an effort which De Gea did well to stop with his legs. It appeared that De Gea didn't want to use his hands, which was rather alarming. And then on 41 minutes, Shaw managed to find Mata with a left foot cross, and the ball came to Pogba, and his header hit the bar. So at half time it was 1-0 for United, but after the break their early promise completely fizzled out, and Huddersfield, buoyed by the fact that they won this fixture a year ago, started to gain in confidence. Now, bearing in mind, Huddersfield have scored the fewest goals in the top 5 European leagues, and they were causing problems for United's defence. 53 minutes, a shot from Grant went just over, and then Sanchez pulled up injured again. He had to be replaced, and he was replaced by the Dutch youngster Chong, and Matic was also substituted for Herrera. But the signs were not good for United faithful, and on 59 minutes a long ball out of defence but from Huddersfield. Shaw and Mbenza running for the ball, and Shaw completely missed it, and Mbenza showed calmness, and he managed to poke the ball through De Gea's legs into the net, and it was 1-1. He then managed in celebration to break the corner flag, and we had a 5-minute delay because of that. They couldn't find a replacement. After that, Young had a sort of half chance. Jones also had a gilt-edged chance, but he's a defender, and it went over. And to be perfectly honest, although the young Chong was running about a lot, he did force a save from Losel, and Pogba hit the bar. A word on Pogba. Pogba appeared throughout the match that he wanted the glory. Now, he was in midfield. He should have been setting things up for Rashford and for the young Dutchman late on. But he just wants all the glory. And although those two efforts might be considered to be great, I feel that he should have been creating chances for others. It was a dismal away performance by United again. and the final score was Huddersfield 1, Manchester United 1. To Stamford Bridge then, Sunday match, Chelsea at home to Watford. Chelsea are fresh off that 1-1 draw in Germany in the Europa League. Christensen was in for the injured Rudiger. Hazard and Higuain were back in the starting lineups. They were on the bench on Thursday. Deeney was back for Watford after a 3-game ban, which put Gray back on the bench. The early action, Watford had the best of it. An early header from Deeney was saved by Kepa, and Holebas had an effort which went just over the bar. To make matters more uncomfortable for Chelsea, Kante had to be replaced by Loftus-Cheek. 30 minutes, first meaningful attack for the Blues. Luiz shouting for a penalty which was waved away, and a little later Pedro shot just wide. Got to the break though, 0-0, but Watford definitely the better side. Second half though, Chelsea really upped the ante, much more purposeful, and on 48 minutes Hazard created some space. His cross found Loftus-Cheek in the 6-yard box, who headed home comfortably. 1-up for Chelsea. On 51 minutes, they doubled their lead when Luiz climbed high above the defence and his emphatic header hit the back of the net, and that was 2-0. Pretty shoddy marking by Watford, however. They responded, Deulofeu gliding an effort just wide, but then Pedro and Higuain made further efforts on the goal, forcing good stops from Foster. However, he could do nothing about the 75th minute third goal. Great run in the box by Higuain, and he accepted the pass and chipped the ball wide of Foster, 3-0, and that was it, game over. So Chelsea now guaranteed a top 4 finish. Whether it will be 3rd or 4th remains to be seen, but certainly Sarri was a very happy coach. To the Emirates Stadium then, Arsenal at home to Brighton. Brighton were now safe, so they could relax a little bit. Arsenal still pressing for that 4th spot, and they desperately needed a win. Anyway, Monreal was back. Ozil was made captain, and an early shot from Mkhitaryan hit a post. Then Monreal was brought down, but it was a very, very iffy shout. The replay suggested that the defender Hasbach had got the ball, but anyway, a penalty was awarded and Aubameyang converted to give the Gunners the lead. Little later in that first half, Brighton gave Arsenal a scare in the box, but the final effort by Murray was tame. Ryan also had to be alert to save from Aubameyang late in the half. So half time 1-0 to the Gunners, but second half Brighton much more purposeful. March was looking dangerous, and they also brought on Knockaert. March had an effort blocked off by Xhaka, but then they got a penalty and Murray converted to draw the tie level. After that, Ryan on 75 managed to block a Lacazette volley, and Gross missed a great chance from a few yards. Having said all that, really, Arsenal lacked firepower up front and really never deserved the win. Final score here at the Emirates then was Arsenal 1, Brighton 1. So we'd anticipated, Brett, the final fixture of the penultimate week in the Premier League at the Etihad Stadium. Man City, of course, needing to win to go back to the top, and they had a purposeful and an attractive Leicester in town. Sane was back on the bench and Foden was in midfield for Man City, and club captain Kompany was installed at the back. First half, not very many clear chances really. Man City certainly having all the possession, well, most of it. Aguero had a header which did hit the woodwork, and Schmeichel completed the save. And there was a tame effort from Bernardo Silva after a jinking run. But anyway, at the break, it was goalless into the second half, and it was non-stop City pressure. Shots were blocked, shots went wide. Basically, things looked like it was never going to happen. 57 minutes, Gundogan shot went inches wide, and Leicester responded with a break on 62 minutes from Maddison, and his effort just crept wide of Ederson's post. Schmeichel's legs came to the rescue on 69 from a Aguero effort, and then on 76 minutes, out of the blue really, Company got the ball 30 yards out, and he hit the shot like a bullet, and it veered into the top right hand corner. Schmeichel never had a hope, and the whole stadium erupted as City had got the vital breakthrough. 1-0, but Man City had to be careful. Leicester was still looking like they could create some damage, and on 86 minutes the ex-City player Iheanacho had a chance to equalise, but his effort went just wide. So City hung on. 1-0 was the final score. They're back on top, 1 point ahead. We've got one more week to go. The top four Champions League is now decided. The bottom three relegated has also been decided. Still a slight uncertainty about Europa League. But anyway, that's your lot for week 37. The goal of the week, well, Company's a glorious shot from 30 yards. I'll see you next Friday for the final prediction show.